So, ladies and gentlemen, we now move to one of the most important and highly anticipated sessions of the day, the CEO's panel on feeding the future. The CEO's panel brings together some of the most respected leaders from crop protection, crop nutrition, biologicals, mechanization, agribusiness, food systems, corporate affairs, and agricultural innovation. Their collective experience and vision will help us understand how the private sector can contribute meaningfully to the future of farming and food security. To moderate this distinguished panel, we are honored to have with us Shri Sanjay Sethi, Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer, Indian Chamber of Food and Agriculture. A very, very warm welcome to you, sir. He has been closely associated with the agriculture, food and agribusiness ecosystem, working towards policy dialogue, industry partnership and institutional collaboration. I would like to invite our distinguished panelists, Mr. Simon V. Bush. He is Vice Chairman, Managing Director and CEO, Bayer Crop Science Limited.
Good evening. We are talking about a very important session on feeding the future. And as we have seen since morning, a variety of business leaders, agribusiness leaders have given us the direction. And now we are at a point to find out how all these thoughts, technologies, they culminate into the decision of a CEO to grow the business in a way that we also able to grow the agriculture, the food, and also do it in a sustainable manner so that actually counterproductive for our future. What is the kind of research that we are doing now will help us to ensure that we have the cake and eat it too. That means that we also take the fruits of the technologies, but also do not have to suffer the negative consequences of those technologies. Are we ready for the future so that we have the resources utilized in an optimum way and we maximize our production and reduce its wrong impacts on our health?
All right, Sanjay, thank you very much, and sorry for being a minute late. It's a very pertinent question, and I'd like to frame it a little bit around something which very often is discussed in a negative way about India, which I personally think one can also use at an advantage. India, in many ways, is not at the forefront of agriculture. Let's be clear about that, right? But the advantage that we have is we can actually observe what the rest of the world has done. And I think we should be much more proactive at doing that and implementing what has been successfully done in other countries, while also avoiding where other countries might have found that certain technologies, if you like, have not been to the benefit. Now, India is unique in some ways, and that's specifically on land ownership, atomized land ownership. So some of the examples we might see from large countries like the United States or so might not apply. But what we can do is look at also countries which have somewhat similar agriculture. So one of the discussions which is often there is, do genetically modified seeds make sense in smallholder farming? Yeah, and taking an example from the United States or from Brazil might not really be applicable. But you can look at South Africa, or you could look at Philippines, for example, to get a sense of, hey, is that agriculture maybe a little bit comparable? And what have been their experiences, right? So what I would invite us to do is, while looking at what does the future bring, not completely rule out what the past has given, right? So I highly appreciate that we would say, gene editing is something that the Indian regulator welcomes, right? But let's be very clear, gene editing is in many ways at the forefront of things. It is not the easiest to implement solution, and it's probably also not one where I expect a lot of deep research specifically for India, and that's a little bit the concern. if you're at the forefront, it needs to be very much specific to your situation. So I think that's something where you would probably have to rely a bit more on the research arm, ICAR, and these type of institutions. But where you say, hey, is there certain step changes which we should take in terms of productivity, for example, in our environment? I think there's a lot of things which are literally on the table where I would encourage us to be more ready also to use and give Indian farmers the opportunity. Because one thing is also very clear, over the last couple of years, we've been super successful. We are in a position that we can calorie feed 1.4 billion people plus, right? And at times we have actually opportunity to export calories. But we have an issue in terms of making sure that this sustains going forward, and we see the discussion around the monsoons right now. But when we're honest to ourselves, we have an issue at nutritiously feeding 1.4 billion people in the current state. And that is where I would put focus. So move a little bit away from the calorie focus, make sure we have more access to more nutritious food. And that will probably mean having to adopt technologies which are there because we cannot, what we've done over the last couple of years, expand on the acres. So productivity on the acre will have to move up. And that's where I would really encourage us to be more proactive.
Yeah, so you do agree that for India, calorie-focused foods are really very, very politically sensitive products, because we are always under the impression, what if we do not have enough food for the table? And that thought has led to stupendous production of rice and also to wheat to some extent. So now, one way is that we go towards the protein-rich foods. Yes, we should go towards the protein-rich foods. But also, can we also now think about how to maybe grow rice in a more resource-efficient way so that we don't have to use the same quantity of water, as they say, 2,500 liters of water per kilogram. So can we save maybe 1,000 liters of water per kilogram? How much the saving it would be? That takes us to a technology which is direct seeding of rice. And I've seen that there is a DSR alliance which has come up, and most of it alliance has been pushed forward by the herbicide manufacturing companies like yours. And we have a fear that how many cycles of herbicides are required? 2, 3, or just one is enough? As you know that in India also, because of Manrega and other schemes, the cost of labor is going up, and it's not available all the time. It's sometimes available a lot, sometimes it is really not fully available. So we look for solutions, not necessarily chemical, but also mechanical, or some cultural practices. So in India, we have a habit of doing green manuring or brown manuring, or preparing the seed bed in a way that we kill the weed seed banks to the extent possible, and do not pulverize too much, go for the zero till, and go for the zero till farming, not just in the rice season, but also in the previous season, so that we have minimal load. And then we do further cultural practices and mechanical practices. Even if we cannot uproot the weeds in the same way that we do it in the eastern part of India, in the northern part of India, it is more mechanized. But at the end of the day, we have not been able to do away the requirement of herbicides in DSR. So far, there is no organization anywhere in the world which has claimed that. So that means herbicides and DSRs, they go together. But is it a good idea that we should focus on research and find out, can we reduce the herbicide? Glyphosate going into the soil, what is going to do with the microbiome in the soil is something that is a debatable subject. So there is a growing feeling that our soils are getting impacted because of the herbicides, and herbicides are needed to feed the people. Is the science giving us a solution?
I think, Sanjay, this is a very, very multifaceted topic, and it's super hard to answer very simply. But let me give you a couple of data points, right? Rice today is not grown without herbicides. So let's be very clear about this. Whether you do traditional rice growing or you do DSR, in both instances, herbicides are part of the game. Even though water does act as a herbicide in the flooded fields, there is herbicide usage, right? Now in DSR, yes, the reliance on a good herbicide regime is higher because the margin of error for the farmer is lower. Now, what we see is there's technologies coming, actually also developed by ICAR again, where a herbicide tolerance is bred naturally into the plant. Yeah, usually it has nothing to do with glyphosate. I find the discussion also very, very interesting. Glyphosate is nothing to do with DSR, barring certain people using it to prepare the land, but they would do that in a non-DSR environment as well, right? So we're mixing a lot of things, and I think that is one of the topics which really hinders also the adoption of DSR, that there's a lot of half-truths, there's a lot of concerns, yeah, which don't necessarily apply to what the farmer is experiencing. The farmer is experiencing labor shortage. That is something which I would argue is somewhat new, right? And it is somewhat catalyzed, and we got to know about it really since COVID. Yeah, and per se, I sit here and say it's something good. Yeah, because sitting here and saying we want our, in many cases it's women, out there on the fields bending over and transplanting rice, I have my views on that. If they have something better to do than that, I personally think that's a good development for the country, right? So DSR is primarily a topic around access to labor at the right cost for farmers. But DSR has significant environmental benefits, which far outweigh the fears that we're talking about, which is on the side of water savings, which is on the side of methane emissions, but it's also an enabler to a much more beneficial cropping system. DSR usually is shorter duration, which allows you to potentially go into completely different cycles, right? Where we sit today, most of us will be looking at a rice-wheat rotation, right? Now, if you work with DSR, you can actually move into a rice-corn pulse rotation. Now, the pulses actually help you preserve nitrogen in the ground, which means you might need less fertilizer. DSR also doesn't compact the soil as much, and it's pretty easy to see if you have whatever it is, 2.5 million liters of water standing there, you can calculate what's the weight on the soil, right? So soil compression over cycles reduces when you move to DSR. Do you need herbicides? Yes, you do. You do in any case. Important is that the herbicide regime is looked at and done in the right manner.
So are you bullish on DSR in northern part of India?
I am bullish on the fact that farmers will have little alternatives. And I'm bullish on the fact that I do believe governmental understanding is growing that we will not be in a position to grow 44 million to 50 million hectares of rice every year in the current system. It's not going to be possible. And when you look at the sensitivities around the monsoon development this year, you can see that there is basically a multi-complex situation. As I say, farmer labor, realization that water and water shortage is a topic, realization that actually, as a country, we need to be much, much more focused on growing better food than rice itself, right, is coming together. And we've seen states like Haryana actually giving subsidies for DSR, right? There is other political means. I mean, when you look at the water pumping and the cost associated, which is, again, not charged to the farmers, these are subsidies which are somewhat under the umbrellas, or under the radar, people don't see it. So simple answer, yes, absolutely. But it's not going to come without the regulator being a little bit more clear about the cost of production today. And that needs to be an incentive scheme for farmers. It's the off-takers, which to me should be sitting there and saying, I prefer DSR grown rice over TPR grown rice because it's better for me image-wise, especially the branded rice traders, right? And yes, it's the whole of the industry and the machine producers which really need to help the farmers to get up there and get it done.
Yeah. So all that what you have shared is a fantastic new insights, and at the same time, sometimes the data makes us feel a little jittery because even in Haryana, you mentioned Haryana, the data is saying that the rice cultivation is still growing, and it's growing at the cost of pulses, at the cost of millets. One silver lining has come from Sirsa because Sirsa got the GI tag for quinoa, which is a horticulture fruit, but that is just a small fraction. So now I turn to Prasad ji. Very happy to meet you. I have learned a lot from your business. I've heard about you. Today I'm meeting you for the first time. And your journey has been very inspiring. I had some question for you. But before that, I wanted to personally know how has been your journey. आपने कैसे ये सब अपना business खड़ा किया और इतना अच्छा खड़ा किया. I would like to know this from my side. कि आप बताना चाहेंगे, would you like to tell us how you grew?
Sure, sir. Thank you. It's very relevant. So I need to share a little bit about myself. Basically, I am from agriculture family. I started my career as an agriculturist, like, all the rural villages, how children will brought up. From the childhood, they will brought up with the parents, they go to the fields and they will see. That's how I have grown. Now I'm 72 years old, and in 1978, I completed graduation in commerce in my town. And then I went back to my village, started farming along with my father. That's how, instead of general crops, I chosen some seed production. I have seen the quality of seed supply between, I remember very much from 70 to 78. Those years, the cotton was introduced in 1972. 73. Till that time, we used to use the same seed, what farm safe seeds, what you call. So the same seeds we used to, there is no seed supplied from the organized sector, but that is a limited availability for the farmers. That's where I started and started producing seeds in 1978 as a seed grower to a public sector organization, National Seeds Corporation. I registered myself as a seed grower. That's how my journey started. So producing seeds that was not adequate, I used to supply National Seeds Corporation, and then some private companies came forward. They want more seed production. That's how I used to work along with my local village fellow farmers, and I used to organize. I became a coordinator between company and the farmer. Whatever the company wants, I used to tell to the farmers, this is what they want, you get better income. That's how the seed production has started way back 78, 79. That was continued. And 1982, I established first seed processing plant. That time, I am not remember there is any big multinational companies. It is only private companies like EID Parry, SPIC, Nagarjuna Fertilizer, ITC. They're all the Indian companies who are in the chemicals and fertilizer. They used to. That's how my journey started. I used to work all the Indian seed companies. Thereafter, from 98, 99, Mr. Simon is here. And also my friend Mr. Sundar is also here, who knows my journey to some extent. That started in 98, 99 with Monsanto. They want some processing facility. That's how I started establishing seed processing facilities for the multinational companies. That's how our journey started and continued till 2014-15. Almost we reached about 35 to 40% of the total country corn production used to operate in our facilities. Whatever the facilities I created for these companies. And then there's a great journey. I can say, if I remember 2000, it is only 1,500 tons, which I used to produce. Now it's a large volume, more than 30% of the country requirement of corn, and more than 60% of hybrid rice are processed in our facilities, which we established for all these companies. And thereafter, we expanded to other countries like Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. That's how my journey is, sir.
Okay,
I
so
hope
you
this
you
gives-
spoke about Bangladesh and other countries. It reminds me of Africa. Every year I go to Eastern Africa to participate in an event which is basically by the agriculture commodity traders. Deepak ji is going out, but he is one of those participants for that African event. And one of the reason why we go there is somewhere the underlying feeling is that we should get the pulses from Africa into India. But I somehow feel that how is it right that Africa itself is fighting for its own food security and we are going there to get our food security? It's a little bit of competition for the same scarce food. So is it possible that companies like yours, they go to Africa and help them with the seed production or supply your seeds to them, help them to take care of their production? I would like to mention to you that in the month of September, we also do India-Africa Seed Congress in Hyderabad. And we feel that we should give it to Africa. Our know-how, our capability, our agroclimatic region that we have in India is very similar to what Africa has. So a company like yours, which is at the forefront of seed production, would you like to look at that? Then we can say with Haq that please give us pulses, because we are helping you to grow not only pulses, but all your foods.
Exactly, that's what I'm doing now. Now, I think if I remember how the Indian seed industry has grown from mid-70s to now, the journey is great. And now if I look back to Africa, almost all I am finding in 70s, early 70s, how India is for seed supply. And also agriculture, huge chunk of lands which are not in agriculture, even in India. I mean, early 70s and 60s, 70s also I have seen lot of lands, wastelands, which we brought into cultivation. Similar situation in Africa. Now, this experience, as I shared with you, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, those countries used to import seeds from the other countries. So once after creating this kind of infrastructure and production systems, those countries has become self-sufficient. Now, this is our plan. Now to Africa, what is that we can do in Africa? The similar situation, whatever I have done here and the Asian countries, we are replicating in Africa. We are trying to create the infrastructure for seed production, to develop the seed production systems in Africa. And now that is how we initiated our project. Now we chosen the difficult country of Nigeria as our first country to solve the problem in the African continent. And now, how we are doing? Our plan is creating the infrastructure, develop the seed production systems in Africa, and also now that will not enough. We are bringing students from Africa, and we are training them here in the seed production systems.
Wonderful.
And again, we are making them to support the seed production system in Africa. Now we started with Nigeria, and now we are planning to expand another 5-6 countries.
So, sir, you mentioned about Nigeria twice. I lived in Nigeria, and in Nigeria, actually, cassava plays a very, very complementary role, or I would say the major role in the food security of Nigeria and some of the countries in the Western Africa. We have a potato man here, so Sundarajan. So you have potatoes, right? And potatoes we don't look at as a serious food security crop, but I love potatoes. But all you do in India, in the name of potato, we have potato chips. I mean, this is the worst form of processing that we could have had in the form from the point of view of the health. My daughters don't agree. They think that this is the best processing because they love it. So is it possible that can we have potato to actually substitute our grain crops to some extent so that the pressure on the grains goes down, because everybody is talking about that. So can we have potato as a serious substitute for our calorie-rich grain crops so that we can depend on potato and in a sustainable way?
So good afternoon to everyone here. And thanks, Dr. Sanjay, for asking this wonderful question. So primarily, I think not much has been spoken about potato as a crop in India, because it's been mostly dominated by rice, wheat, and maize and cotton. But somehow we missed talking about potato crop. But interestingly, there's a silent revolution which is happening in this particular crop. From nowhere, in last 6 decades, India has emerged as the second largest producer, producing around 60 million metric tons of potatoes. And this is primarily possible because of farmers, the research which has been contributed by CPRI, and of course, n number of genetics which has flown in from other countries like Europe or from US, in terms of resource use efficiency and serving as a resilient crop. If you look at from a most efficient energy crop, for instance, if you take the calories being produced from potato crop, is close to around roughly around 1.5, I would say around 1 or 15 million calories per hectare, compared to rice, which is around half. So if you look at similarly, in terms of water consumption for a potato crop, is quite less. It's around 250 liters to 300 liters per kg. Vis-a-vis, it is 10 times compared to rice or wheat. So clearly, it is one such a crop which really helps in terms of being very resource nutrition point of view, and able to optimize resources. So we are able to produce more with less land, with less water, and with less resources. That's a classic case. But if you look at from a nutritional point of view, today it is one of the best carb product in the whole system. And if you look at it, it has got vitamin C, B68, and has got the highest potassium levels. So in a way, it serves to capture the nutritional security of our country, as well as the food security of our country, and also the farmers' prosperity. So I clearly see that in the coming years, especially with the progress with the Viksit Bharat, we clearly see that it is going to double in terms of production. A lot of new concepts have come in terms of processing potatoes. I think there's a growing myth, what the minister was also mentioning today. There's a negative myth against processed products. That's the same thing which happened with the GMOs, and it is happening now with herbicides, and now we are talking about for processing potatoes. But if you look at in India, despite we being the second largest producer next to China, but our value is very, very meager. But we produce more, but the value is less. But to capture value or to add value to the farmer, I think we need to have processed products which will really help double or triple their incomes. If you look at classic case in India, out of 60 million metric tons, only 8% of the potatoes are processed. And out of 8%, I would say still 6% is what chips contribute. And only 2%, which is on the French fry sector, which is a sunrise industry for our country. It is growing at the rate of around 20% year on year. So we clearly see there's an enormous potential for the farmers to get into this kind of a closed loop model, wherein farmers can get assured income. There's a pre-contracted price with the farmer. So it's an assured income to the farmer. And the whole ecosystem of processors trying to build with the farmers, centered around farmers, in terms of providing seed systems, in terms of providing digital tools, in terms of providing innovation, getting the best genetics to the country. So these are, and market linkages and assured prices, these really contribute that there's going to be enormous future. And I clearly see that potato crop is going to be one of the future crop for diversification.
So you spoke about production, but you didn't speak so much about sustainable production. So what should we mean in terms of our impact on our health? When the production goes up, would that also mean that more chemicals and more negative impact on our health?
So if you look at from a production point of view, compared to other crops, the chemical usage, the amount of pesticide usage is quite less. And if you look at the kind of genetics which has come in now, or lesser usage of nitrogenous fertilizers. So I clearly see this is one such crop which is optimal usage of, I would say, inputs is happening in such a way. And there are many tools, as we talked about, a lot of digital tools available today in the country. For example, we have a classic case in our company where I represent a company called Hyphen Foods. We are one of the leading processing food company, especially on frozen snacks, especially in the French fry industry. We have built an arm called Hi-Farm, which is the agribusiness unit of Hyphen. So what we do here, we are trying to digitize each and every pain points of the farmer, especially looking out how do we minimize the usage of water, how do we minimize the usage of fertilizers, and at the same time, how do you minimize or reduce the cost of cultivation? Because that's going to be very, very critical for us. So clearly what we have done is we have laid our own package of practices in such a way that we have associated with companies, with startups, where there are instruments where they have weather installations, weather patterns to assess, and also soil moisture. So what we do in a crop like potatoes, especially in the state of Gujarat, despite using drip irrigation, farmers, when they follow the right package of practices through digital means, they are able to reduce fertilizer use to the tune of around 25%. That is a big contribution. And the second thing is the water usage has gone down by 30%. So what it means to us is that the more, and if you look at clearly, farmers used to have the habit of irrigating the crop on a drip irrigation on a day to day. Every day they irrigate. So in a way, they try to leach the fertilizers down the water table. But today, these digital tools are really helping farmers to control. The farmer is able to predict and understand, take data-driven decisions through mobile apps, and then he is able to irrigate as and when it is required. So in a way, I think the question of over-usage of fertilizer is not there. Over-usage of fertilizers are coming down, and there are germplasm which is really addressing that.
Okay, Ravi, I turn to you now. So recently we saw the war exposed our dependence on the imported fertilizers. Except urea, we still make 70% of the fertilizer, but still for that also naphtha we depend. So there is a growing thought that what if tomorrow there is another disturbance somewhere in some part of the world and again we are impacted? Can we start thinking about, to some extent at least, we substitute with something so that our dependence on the imported fertilizer is less and less? You are making machines. Shaktiman is the biggest agriculture equipment manufacturer in India. And you grew from Punjab and now you are in Rajkot and you're exporting to some 50, 60 countries all over the world. But do you think that the machines can really play a role in reducing the fertilizer requirement? You have seen in Punjab and Haryana, now the crops residues which are burning, now they are not localized only here. They have now moved to Bihar, UP, even Odisha. Other states have also started burning not just the rice residue, but also wheat residue and some other residues. So wherever the animal cannot eat, wherever there is a disposable problem, they burn it. So it's a national wastage. And your machines are there for crop residue management. But the fact is that we are not using it to the extent possible. Most of the biochar and other solutions which are coming, they are ex situ solutions, whichever are coming, they are again causing emissions to take the parali out of the farm. Whereas crop residue management in situ, whether in the form of mulching or in the form of incorporation to the soil, are considered the best for our Mother Earth. So do you think that we are going to succeed in the mission, or we are going to fail the way decomposer did not take off as much, the same way on machines also?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay, and good evening to all of the members who are sitting here, and good evening to members also. I would like to add is that there is no need to change mindset of a technology. There is a need of changing our mindset to see what is the crop residual value is there. I had exhibited one slide over here. I think we were not able to see, but my audience can see it. Here the crop residuals are there from the paddy straw, sugarcane, cotton, beet, maize, coconut, groundnut and banana. There is an absolute value of that crop residual. If you recollect, if any residual or if any waste is having demarcated with some X value, component value, then it will be taken as a precious thing. You just think of, we are reading the newspaper on a daily basis, but we are not throwing the newspaper because that newspaper goes into the raddi. Some day we will get some amount of money from getting that disposed it off to the raddi wala. That is why I am also taking this forum to appeal to the government also, that government is fixing the prices of a new crop, that is a MRP. I will also request government to put a price for the crop residual also. Unless and until it has been demarcated or it has been tagged with some prices, it becomes precious. The farmer will not burn, and we will get an international solution for that. I think it is a very, very wise thing if we get into that thing. Now coming down to the usage of fertilizer, if you are growing the crop, we are putting a lot of manure, bio fertilizer, non-bio fertilizer, chemical, everything we are putting it out. The crop which has been blessed with that kind of a chemical or a non-chemical or a bio fertilizer, it has been retained some content in the soil or some content in the stem or root of the plant. If you are burning it out, we are destroying the entire thing over there. And laboratories had proved it. If we are not burning it out, we are getting at least 15 to 17% of the saving for the next time when we are putting the manure or a chemical fertilizer. Third most important factor is that whatever you put into the plant, it will come to us. It will not go anywhere. We are adding, we are getting it, we are putting it to the plant, our animal will eat it, we'll eat the milk. That ultimately, with a longer route, it will come to us only. The chemical which we are putting in the plant, it is coming to us. The less chemical you are putting into the plant, it will come less to us. My only thing is that unless and until we put some significant value for the crop residual, my machines are there because our mission is only that making agriculture more economical. That is why we are putting lot of intervention is that our mulchers are there, our slashers are there, so that we can get a faster decomposition of the crop residual. I know there is a hurry in the farmer mindset now what I will do for the next crop. Now the rain will come, I have to, because most of the area are fed by the rains only. That is also a solution. We are having a super seeder if they wanted to grow it fast on the paddy field. So there is a solution over there, but it is not a solution to burn or to destroy or to use more or more chemical. Now there are the things, we are also having a sprayers which has precisely dropped that kind of a chemical on the plant which they desired to get at least maintenance on it. And we are running a campaign called Tera Tujhko Arpan, which is actually a campaign where whatever the crop residue is there, we are putting back to the soil. For the next crop, it will be blessed with that kind of a ingredient of biodegradable manures.
So, for the benefit of Simon, so when he said, Dharti Ma Tera Tujhko Arpan, it literally means that Mother Earth, I offer to you what's yours. So, it means that the crop residue has to be incorporated or it has to be mulched. So, this in situ incorporation or in situ mulching of the crop residue would indirectly reduce our dependence on the fertilizers. So, and this is all happening with the smallholder. So, should we assume that you will focus on the eastern, states also, where we are still learning the line sowing and the other things? Some states have progressed quite a lot in terms of there is combined harvester and there is a mechanical sowing, but they are still learning and they probably need, because of their terrain, such equipment which are very, very suited for small farms. So do you think that we are going to see some innovations from your company which are focused on small farms now that you have moved away from Punjab to Gujarat? So I'm sure you don't take the mindset of only the mechanized big farms, but also there are some undulating topographies in many parts of India, and the farms are really very, very small. So they need those line sowings, maybe which are very simple.
I'd just like to add you that we don't move from Punjab to Gujarat. Now we are exporting to the 130 countries. So the machines are now going out also. And we are actually developing an end-to-end solution. Like my friend is here, and we are also one of the supplier to Hyphen. From seedbed preparation to crop maintenance to harvesting to grading, and the entire cycle, we are making the machine like that. Now coming back to the precise question on the small farming, we are having a small equipment also for working in the terrain area for the small farmer where the land holding are very, very small. Now the second affordability concern which the small farmer cannot afford with a multi-equipment which is required for the entire crop cycle is that there is a customizing center which has been promoted by the government, and we are blessed that our government is putting a lot of subsidy to promote the customizing center so that this kind of a community farming culture can be adopted in India. Because I am a farmer, I can't have all the equipment which has been required for the entire crop cycle. Like seedbed preparation, different equipments are there, sowing, different equipments are there, crop maintenance, different equipments are there, harvesting, different equipments are there, and the crop residual, different equipments are there. If that kind of a community farming is there, if I owe one of the machines, that is rotavator for the seedbed preparation, my friend owes the seed drill, then another friend owes the sprayers, rakshak, and it like that, it goes on like that. That kind of a community farming can be done. And second thing is that my dealers are also intervening in that. They are also lending it out their machines. That kind of a model we are building it, and we are having a good share in the small field also. If you talk about Eastern, that is Bihar is having a very small land holding, West Bengal is having a very small landing, and that entire 7 sister state, which are having a terrain area and everything, they are having a very small landing, and that kind of typical farming is going on. So they are also adopted to now the rice transplanters are there for getting the faster sowing, maintenance of crop, the spares are there. So they are also adopting it. And there are a lot of people who are sharing the asset, that is sharing the agriculture implements also there. So that everybody is prone to the mechanization there. And my company is also making a small equipment, like small tillers are there for the 18 to 24 hours over a tractor. That is also there. For inter-cultivation operation, our small rotavators are there. Between the crop, they are doing the inter-cultivation operation. That is there now.
Okay, so Drukesh, your organization sounds like an NGO, but actually it's an association, right? Because in India, whenever we make an association, we put the word association in the bed. You didn't put that. You said crop life, and it's all over the world. And you represent probably the biggest crop protection companies in India as well as in the world. So your impact is very, very strong on producing foods. It's a very immediate impact, because if we have so many diseases, if we have so many pests, we virtually have a disaster on the field. Yet there is a perception, and you say that there is a myth that actually these chemicals are not harmful for human body, but rest of the room may not agree with you, right? So would you like to throw some light on this, why you say that, and why you say that this is something which is something that we need to properly use, optimize to increase our production, and is there any message that you give it to us so that we increase our production, and anything that we can tell to your members so that they listen to this room, that yes, we need to take care of our food safety, which is linked with the overuse of pesticides.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sethi, and good evening, everyone. Yes, let me clarify on the Crop Life Industry. Crop Life India is an association. Yes, definitely, we have not used the word association. We have the Crop Life Network. We have globally presence in 91 countries, and we're proud to have 70% market of in India, and the credit goes to our members for introducing new molecules in India, and it's 95%. All the new molecules introduced by our members. So that's the credit goes to the Crop Life members. Now coming to the point of your 2 points, first the importance and then the perceptions also. It's a very much important. Like we have not, since the word pesticide has been somewhere connoted with the negative terms, now we should refer as a crop protection or the plant medicine. Like medicines are important to be healthy, means to avoid us and protect us from the diseases and various ill effects. I noted down while you were discussing more about the rice and the potato. So on rice, there hundreds of insects are attacked on rice field. Then weeds, around 200 number of weeds, and the 40 plus fungal diseases are vulnerable to the rice crop. So how all these will be protected? Only the pesticides can protect these all crops. Then you talked about the potato. So more than 100 to 180 insects are there who can attack the potato crop. And 15 to 25 more specific weeds are there which are in the potato field. And then 150 type of pathogens which affects the potato crop. So how will we save our crop? We have to feed the 1.43 billion population. We have somewhere moved to the level of food security, now talking about the nutritional security. And if we talk about the wheat, we have not discussed, but since it's most staple food and it gives us the food security, and we have the sufficient production now. So for the insect, it has the attack of 100 insect, specifically around 20 to 50 specific insect for the wheat. 200 types of weeds are there in the wheat crop, and then 100 types of fungal infections are vulnerable for this wheat crop. So all the pesticides are important. Just like for the human being, there's a medicine. These are for the plants. Now coming to your points of the overuse. First of all, let us very clear. India is not using the overuse the pesticides. We use on an average 0.3 kg per hectare of somewhere around it. The figures may be 2.260 means 260 gram, but on an average we use a 0.3 kg per hectare of pesticides in field. Whereas when we talk about the developed economies, either the China, Japan or US, they uses much more, somewhere around 11 kg, 10 kg and the 8 kg. So this is
per kilogram of output?
Per hectare I'm talking about.
So because our production is also less, so per kilogram of output?
So that's why it's affecting our productivity also. If we talk about the productivity, our average Indian national average productivity for all these major crops are much lower than the global average. Recently, this maize crop has been definitely got a very attraction of the farmers because of its economical values and usage in the ethanol blending. If we take the productivity of the maize also, it is not of the level of the global average. So how the productivity will increase? We have the challenges of the climate challenge. Means recently this El Nino effect is there, drought is coming, the fragmented land holding, then the several attacks of the pesticides also, and then the water, the scarcity. Means as per some of the international forum, they said that after 2050, there will be challenge of the 50% aggregate agriculture or cultivable land for the drought situation. So coming to all these challenges, and there are science research, then whenever there is challenges for the water or the scarcity of water or the drought or such kind of climatic challenges are there, the crops are more vulnerable to the pests. To protect our crops from all these challenges, there is and we always advocate for the safe and judicious use. So judicious usage. So we are not using the overuse. First point. Now, second point, the perception is used with we are having more pesticide. But if we talk the technology, how it has been grown up. In 1960s, we were using somewhere around the 10 kg per hectare, but the innovations have been brought in and sustainable solutions has brought into the pesticide industry also. Now the 10 gram of active ingredients are sufficient for to control for the per hectare. So uses are there. So means new technologies have come. Though in India, there are some of the regulatory challenges. We have always been taken with the government and taking those issues with at different various levels to support the industry to bring more innovative and sustainable solutions and provide a ecosystem that helps and those companies who can more invest into the R&D.
And do you also tell something to your members about the concerns of the consumers, or you only represent their interest?
I mean, they are already aware. Means more. You already said that our members are who are the leading R&D companies in MNCs as well as in India also. So they are already aware what are the concerns, and we do on an average through CropLife India we touch about 1.5 lakh farmers per year. And if we talk about the collectively the stewardship activities, direct and the indirect outreach with the farmers, we reach out to more than millions of farmers every year for creating awareness about the safe and judicious use of the pesticides.
Fantastic. So any closing comment from any of the panelists? Yeah, please.
Recommend when we look at this topic on feeding the future, primarily we need to focus on establishing strategic value chain to capture value, and that's more important. So I think we need to work together with all the stakeholders in such a way that we will be able to enrich farmers' productivity and profitability.
Okay.
Yep, I will just add to the sir, which was on the usage of fertilizer. Actually, that kind of awareness or that kind of regime has been created among the farmer community, and to us also. What is the absolute value that can be put in? If I talk about the longest crop cycle season is a crop maintenance only, where a lot of pesticide, weedicides, fungicides are being used. If that kind of a education or that kind of a campaign is there, that this is not required or this is a solution to it, or that regime will definitely make us more healthier, because that kind of ingredient will not go into it. And one thing is that the usage of fertilizer or that can be reduced by nurturing or making a crop residue also a part of a fertilizer consumption. Some 15-20% ingredient will come from the residue, and rest can be added to the soil for every year.
Great.
Like this.
Great. Simon?
Yeah, I think it's super important to think in systems, right? I mean, when I look at the panel here, it's really, really interesting. Yeah? He produces the potatoes, right? He helps them put the seeds into the ground, and let's just pretend, Prasad, you were producing potato seeds, right? We actually probably focus more on the protection, but what I'm interested in when I talk about systems is also the crop rotation, right? And we were just discussing that there's a good rotation between maize and potatoes, right? And Durgesh was saying important things as well as to, there's a lot of perceptions out there, but one needs to also accept the facts, right? We're 1.4 billion people, we will be 1.7 billion people in 2047. We talk about Viksit Bharat, where we want to feed this nation nutritiously. What all of us here are doing is working on that. And it is important that we look at it in an integrated way as to how to move forward, how to incorporate technology where technology makes sense. We literally have the solutions, right? One thing which I think is super important, which we didn't talk about today, is a little bit the consolidation of production, right? With atomized land ownership, which is a challenge in India and is probably a bigger challenge than many other countries in the world, how do we come together, right? You talked about sharing machinery. I think it needs to be a bit more structured. I personally like the idea of FPOs, right? But how do you come to the understanding that while we have smallholder farming and land ownership, there is an aspect of having to synchronize, because if I'm a potato processor, and that's the next thing, localized processing is super important. One of the major issues in India is we produce and it doesn't get to the mouth of a person, for good and bad, right? And that's, I think, where a little bit
that is coming out, emanating out of this kind of discussion. I think the other database is there is a 2 lakh crores rupees per annum lost to farmers because of biotic stresses. Biotic stress, when I mean, means pests and diseases. So I think it's important to look at the entire thing in its perspective. It's similar to what you have for human health. Same thing is replicated for plant health.
We have one more minute.
So go ahead, please. Yeah.
We have one more minute. Can you wrap up your question, please?
Yeah. No, so I just wanted to clarify this point. There's no question I have. I think it's a fabulously addressed by everybody. But let this be clear to the panel, to the house, that this entire myth around crop protection is a what we call a soap balloon.
Okay.
Nothing more.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Crop Life had, during my journey in Sandoz Agrochemicals, first launcher of quinal phos, less phytotoxic aqua base. And also Shaktiman is also there, launching of nano ureas and other perspective. And being a Ministry of Commerce retired for urea imports and all, I want to know what is the perspective of agrochemical input sector, those who are in the chair. How many less phytotoxic molecule has been launched in India as on date by other multinationals or indigenous or local formulators? Could you give insights? And how many percentage of land has been covered by your micro urea applications? The 2 questions.
Durgeshji?
So as of now, I'm not ready with the answer with how much the molecules now new have been introduced with the phytotoxic. Less phytotoxic. Yeah. See, if we talk about the toxicity level as a general, definitely it has been included, but the specific number we can share. I will collect your number and then we can share a specific number. But the toxicity level of all the new molecules have been reduced from the higher to the lower end. We are also waiting for and seeking support from the government to bring lower toxic molecules, more effective, less toxic, and more less doses also.
Agri inputs use efficiency index with the farm produce context. The percentage is very low, and we are in the same platform for last 5 years.
See, we are also requesting and advocating with the government of India, since out of the all available around 300 molecules in India, 380 roughly molecules would be registered, and we are seeking favorable policy support to bring the new innovations and the new technologies, given some incentive to the companies who are having those molecules.
Sensitizing and capacity building aspect of the farmers. Agri input sector, Shaktimans, I'm requesting what are the measures you have taken for the promotionals or like that?
Manufacturing a fertilizer, we are in an agriculture mechanization.
Okay, fine.
That is a different organization. So I think
Maybe over the coffee.
yeah, again to you, sir. You can answer it.
Thank you very much for
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? No. Time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you, organizers.
Extremely sorry, sir. We're really running out of time. Honorable Minister, sir, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to that. I'm really honored. And I would like to invite Ms. Rajni Shaleen Chopra, Group Editor, Agriculture Today Group, to once again do the honors of felicitating dignitaries. We begin by honoring our moderator, Shri Sanjay Sethi. Thank you, sir. Mr. Simon B. Bush. Mr. Sondra Rajani. And Mr. Prasad, Mr. Ravi Mathur, and Dr. Durgesh Chandra. And may I now request for a group photograph? And ladies and gentlemen, I would request everyone to kindly be seated back. In another 15 minutes, we are expecting Sri Rajnath Singh Ji to join us before time. So we may go ahead with the proceedings before the scheduled time. And we have designated seating now. Your names have been marked on the table for the sponsors as well as the awardees. We would request you all to kindly be seated according to the names tabs put on the tables. We will now for this event, we will have designated seating. Thank you very much indeed.